So, how many of you hate self-inserts? How many of you have self-inserts? Well, I have self-inserts, and I also have thoughts on them, so here we go. Before we actually jump into the whole thing, let's get out of the way with the, hey, what you drawing? This particular image is one of my Patreon tiers, my current highest tier. I'm going to soon be revamping the whole thing. I'm working on drafts for that. But on one of my tiers, you get like a custom character bust, like monthly. Towards the end of the month is usually when I try and do it. This was one that was requested by Inside Chaos, and I had never drawn Vegeta before, and I really like how he turned out in my style. I was worried a little bit of how he would translate in my style, but I really like the end result. So I think that's actually about all I have to say on it, except that I really enjoyed drawing it, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to, and for letting me be able to, use the footage to show on my channel. Now that we've got that out of the way, back to the video. So we've talked about fan characters. I've mentioned it before, I've mentioned that I have plenty, they're fun, it's not uncommon for them to essentially be baby's first original character. A lot of people do it, a lot of people get salty about watching other people do it, and I still to this day do not understand why. So long as somebody's not hurting anybody, or doing anything bad, leave them alone. And that's gonna come up again. Because we've talked about fan characters, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about self-inserts. Because every time you turn around, somebody's getting mad at somebody else for having a self-insert character, or somebody has one and apparently it's bad for some reason. And the thing that kills me with it is, a lot of the time, and older people do it too, older people have self-inserts, and it's not uncommon for fan characters are often baby's first original character. Self-inserts are often baby's first character, period. And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to learn to mess around with a character? Why not start with yourself and putting yourself into one of your favorite series or something like that? It's so much fun. They can be a ton of fun. And frankly, that's really one way that I got involved first doodling comics when I was younger. I had so many little self-insert comics, especially for Teen Titans and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I could take a version of myself and I could do something with it that I couldn't do in real life, that I couldn't be in real life. Because I was a weird kid. I was a shy kid. I didn't have very many friends. I was the outcast kid. It's just how it was. That's the way things were because I was bullied a lot. Found out later there's a few mental health conditions that kind of contribute to that. But regardless, I was the weird kid, so that's just how things were. I was lonely, so I delved into fiction. But to touch on that, I also want to follow that they can be great not only for that and for exploring another side of yourself, but they can be great for games with character creation, especially if you're doing your first run and first playthrough. Because sometimes you don't want to actually, if you're one of those people who, like me, goes in depth with your character and comes up with all these headcanons of outside of the actual gameplay, or things post-game, or pre-game, or anything like that, I get all over the place. So sometimes I like to mess around and do a self-insert run first, because then I can get a feel for it just playing a character that's supposed to be me. Because sometimes that just gives you a little bit of an extra start where you don't have to worry about trying to figure out and feel out a new character. And for me, it gives me time to explore the series and the game and the story itself to try and figure out how I would make a character for this, for my little, a good example, Dragon Age Origins for my Grey Warden, Inquisition for my Inquisitor, Mass Effect for my Commander Shepard. If I haven't watched people play a little bit of it, sometimes I'll do a little self-insert run just because it's fun. And I get it. Everybody looks at things like that and they go, oh, that's so cringe. That's so cringy. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do things like that? And when I see people do that, my immediate thought is, honestly, everything can be cringe if you do it the certain way. Everything can be. And I'm sorry, but no matter what you do, you're going to look back on certain things and cringe. Even if you think you're being the coolest person ever in the moment, you are going to look back on yourself and just, ugh. Oh, why was I like that? Ugh. So I don't see why you shouldn't just enjoy things in the moment and let people enjoy things in the moment. Like I said, I have my own self-inserts. I have a lot of them. I have one probably for every single, series and franchise that I'm interested in or really into. And sometimes it can just be a great way to give yourself some kind of validation for things. Especially if you're stuck in a place mentally. It can be a great escape, especially if you're going through a lot of stuff. Why not let yourself just fall into or doodle a world where you can be something, where you can do things that maybe you can't do currently. Maybe you can do things that you may not be physically capable of. You can do things where you're brave if you're like me and you have anxiety. You can do things where you're not afraid of people or of things all the time. And honestly, sometimes you can even use it to cope and work through things. I've done that before. It's stuff that I still do to an extent, but because I'm working through certain things and learning to acknowledge how certain things affect me, there are certain things that I don't have to work through in a fictional context anymore, just because I've either come to terms with it or I've learned to cope with it. And it can sometimes just be great to have a fictional situation that you can stick yourself in where you're actually in control, especially if you've spent a lot of your life feeling like you've never been in control or that everyone else has been controlling you. And I know sometimes people can get a little bit overboard with their self-inserts and will honestly get a lot like them, like some people do over fan characters, where they're like, oh no, I'm shipping my character with this person. Oh no, I'm shipping myself with this person. Therefore, they're the only person that can be shipped with them ever that's not a canon character. Yeah, people do that. It's usually young, dumb kids who do it and who learn from it. But if that's the case, just leave them alone. People go overboard with just about everything. Just leave them alone. Because usually it's people who will work past it. If not, just block and move on. Now that said, it's also okay to dislike self-inserts. I think it is totally okay to dislike self-inserts. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody has different things that they like to do. Some people don't like to do fan content, period, let alone self-inserts, and they have the right to do that. However, that does not mean attacking others for enjoying it. That's a big problem. And we see it almost every time that you get some teenager drama pop up in the art community. Like, don't even get me started on things like, I'm not even gonna name them because that will summon people and I'm not gonna do it. No. And like I said, you don't have to like them. And I get it. As I said, it can be cringy. But if you don't like them and you don't want to create them, that is completely valid. But not attacking others who do is important. Especially because maybe they just enjoy it, or maybe they're new to making characters at all. That's a big one. And a big thing people need to remember is that people are allowed to enjoy things. That is something that I think a lot of people need a reminder on. A big reminder on. People are allowed to enjoy things. If someone's enjoying something and they're not harming somebody else or doing something to cause harm, leave them alone. Others are allowed to like them, just like some people are allowed to dislike them. But I think on both sides, people get up in arms about it far too much. And everybody needs to calm down a little bit. It's like I'm going to eventually do a video regarding Mary Sues. And yes, Mary Sues are such a prominent thing. That's such a prominent topic. People still talk about it constantly. And most people will automatically lump self-inserts or fan characters into being Mary Sues even if they don't fit the bill for it. And that kind of thing, when you attack people, it will make people afraid to talk about their characters and about the things that they like, or even to share things that are completely original whenever they end up coming up with things later. And that's frustrating to see because you see people get upset or people hurting because they just want to have fun and create. And you never know why somebody created a character. You never do. Unless they explicitly say why they created a character, you don't know why. If it's a self-insert and they're messing with something, who knows, maybe they're trying to work through something that they find important or difficult to deal with. If someone's made a fan character, maybe they just really, really like that series and they love the idea of having a little character that they came up with being in the series. It's great for writing exercises and drawing exercises, honestly. Especially if you want to learn how to do things like style copying. That kind of thing can be really useful. And sometimes it's fun just to make little fictional versions of yourself. That's what my original channel mascot was. It was a little cartoony character version of myself. Now it kind of still is, and it's hilarious that there's so much pink on my character, just because I always disliked pink so much, but I really like it on that character. But I think if I keep talking, I'm going to go in circles, even though I have bullet points. I'm getting better, but I still talk in circles a lot. This ended up a lot shorter than I thought it would be, actually. Maybe I should have gone into more detail with some things, but I will work on that another time, because I'm working on getting better with all of my scripting. Now, I do want to ask, do any of you guys have any self-inserts? If you do, I'd love to hear about them, because it's always fun. I think it's always really fun to do that, and to find different ways that you might have to tweak yourself to where a character ends up starting out as a self-insert, but they do actually have, you can do it and have actual character growth over the period of the story. You can. But I'd love to hear about you guys' self-inserts. They're so much fun. Aside from that, though, what are your thoughts on the whole thing with self-inserts? I know I am setting myself up for probably quite the number of confrontational people in the comments if people find this video, because that's the nature of it. That's the same thing's gonna happen when I eventually talk about Mary Sue's. That's just how it's going to be. But I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on it, and I think that's about it. So first off, I want to say thank you to my patrons, Inside Chaos and Salmon. I am still so thrilled that I can say that at the end of a video. It still throws me off so much, but I love it. And I'm sorry this is a bit shorter of a video. I'm really hoping to start putting out some little bit more long ones, because I know that it seems like many people really enjoy the longer ones, because I know there are several other people, much like myself, who do drawing and listening while they play my content in the background to listen to while they work. And so I am going to see if I can start making my videos a little bit longer without talking in circles. But for now, that is everything, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!